The astronauts on the Challenger survived the initial breakup. They were alive, and possibly conscious, all the way down. Welcome to Daily Dose Reddit. What's a fact you wish you didn't know? That my mom died of a genetic form of ALS, and it is likely that either me or one of my two brothers will become ill and die from it as well. Maybe two of us. Life was easier when I thought it was a sporadic case. There was an accident on the oil rig Byford Dolphin. The chamber some divers were in was incorrectly depressurized and all of them died, but one man was torn apart and shot across the deck by being forced through a tube a few centimeters across. That Mount Everest is littered with over 200 dead bodies because the costs and obstacles of retrieving them are too great. That the talking mirror on The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody was played by a child molester. Makes every scene with it so creepy, how he tells the kids how they look. Really ruined the whole thing for me. When you're on your deathbed, hearing is often the last sense to go. In that case, your last sensation from the mortal world will be the sound of pain and distress from the people around you. Quokkas are heartless. They use their babies as decoys, literally throwing them in the path of incoming predators, in order to buy some time to escape. I watched an episode of Monsters Inside Me where this guy was out running or something and a fly flew into his eye. It only made contact for a millisecond, but it was enough time for the fly to lay eggs. He almost went blind because they were eating his eye from the inside, and now I'm always paranoid whenever a fly goes near my face. The human brain typically stays alive long enough to realize the body is dead. When an octopus reproduces, it removes its penis and throws it at the female so she can impregnate herself, and then he grows back another one. That the elephant's foot in Chernobyl produces so much to radiation it can kill a fully grown adult in just 3 days. Oysters are still alive when they're served. They only die when you eat them. You're eating a living oyster. You know how every so often you eat that one pistachio nut that tastes funky? Well, that, my friend, is a worm. Pretty sure they are navel orange worms. You're welcome. The details of human experimentation in Nazi Germany and Imperial Japanese death camps, as well as the details of the atrocities in Democratic Kampuchea, ISIS territory and war-torn Yugoslavia. The details of the murders of Shonda Scherer, Sylvia Likens, James Bulger, Suzanne Capper, Junko Furuta, James Byrd Jr., Darren Rainey and Marcia Powell. If you ever come across those names, I advise you that bad stuff happened, and I would nope out of learning more. Morbid curiosity can go F itself on this one. That koala bears have chlamydia. Rogue planets are flying through space at incredible speeds, with no real set direction. Essentially a planet the size of Venus could come out of nowhere and take us out. And we wouldn't die right away, it would take so much time for the total damage to complete, and even if you managed to survive, then you would have to suffer through the second heat death or total freeze of the Earth. That there are no laws against cannibalism in 49 out of the 50 states that make up the US of A, the only state outlawing it being Idaho. There is a man who created a formula that accurately predicts human kindness as a result of evolution, proving that kindness is only a function of survival and nothing more, and he killed himself when he realized that. More specifically, George Price lived a miserable life. When he came up with his formula, he spent the rest of his life trying to disprove it by being as kind as he could be. He gave everything up, but in the end he killed himself with a pair of rusty toenail clippers because he couldn't prove genuine human kindness. During an accident while working with radioactive substances, a Japanese man was exposed to many times the lethal limit for an adult human, but despite him begging for death, literally, doctors kept him alive despite excruciating constant pain. It took a long time for him to die. Too long. Apparently whales breach the surface near boat-watching ships because the vibrations from the engines hurt their ears and they leave the water in an attempt to get away from all of the noise. A single grape is about 8 calories. That cockroaches, contrary to popular belief, would not necessarily be able to survive a global nuclear holocaust, at least not on the surface. They'd more than likely survive underground in sewage systems and cave systems left untouched by nuclear radiation. Cockroaches actually make a better canary system than actual canaries, reacting to lack of viable oxygen, whether there's a toxic leak or sudden vacuum of oxygen, identifying sources of viable water, and reacting to levels of radiation that are unsafe. So if you're in a cave system and the cockroaches in your cave start scrambling away from where you're walking, I hate cockroaches and my immediate reaction is to crush them underfoot, but I somehow know a buttload about them. They're probably carrying an egg sac that you've just now spread the eggs across your house. When you eat a fig, you are also eating a wasp. You ever wonder how fruit flies pop up in the middle of your house in the dead of winter when everything is shut tight? They're already on the fruit when you buy it, burrowed into the skin of the fruit, microscopic and waiting to awaken. This is gross enough by itself, but also consider if you eat the fruit quick enough for the flies to not develop, that just means you're eating the eggs before they hatch. A prion is a misfolded protein. When it contacts another protein, it also misfolds it. There is no cure. These are not bacteria that can be killed. They are not viruses that can be immunized against. There is no treatment. They run unchecked and multiply. They are so small, just a few atoms, that there is very little you can do to not contract them other than not being near them or being in an airtight suit. They cause things like mad cow disease. I want to have children someday, but I made the mistake of watching a video of a C-section. I wish I'd have stayed ignorant of it, just knowing it could be a last resort situation for me someday. I know this is not an uncommon procedure, the video just spooked me. The young mothers list on Wikipedia stops at 10. Meaning that motherhood was so common they stopped registering it after 10. You're more likely to die when checking your lottery tickets than you are to win the lottery. I have a 50% chance of having the same disease that killed my grandma, and my mom is currently suffering from. It's rare and no known cure, but it is neurodegenerative, and the first thing to usually go is your balance. Then your ability to write, speak, breathe. One by one your organs will slowly fail. I remember the last few years of my grandma's life she started coughing violently, then over the course of maybe 3 years she couldn't speak anymore, only make series of grunts. My mom started coughing a few months ago and I'm terrified. Whenever we go out to the grocery store or wherever she needs to hold onto a cart or me or she feels like she will fall over. My mom only turned 50 this past September and we lost my grandma at 72. I read that it is more prominent in women, and if you have it then there is a 50% chance of passing it to your offspring, and every generation it is passed onto, the symptoms show more rapidly. Adelie penguins engage in rape, necrophilia, and pedophilia. In fact, they've killed chicks in the process of abusing them. There's no way to prove anything really exists. That Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, and the alphabet tune A, B, C, D, E, F, G are to the same tune. At least, in the UK they are. Day ruined. Henry Ford, the father of the assembly line and the modern automobile, was a Nazi sympathizer and was even referenced by name in Mein Kampf. Eating cheese triggers the same part of the brain as taking hard drugs. Dolphins can commit suicide by staying underwater and basically suffocating. Friend from school worked at SeaWorld and said it would happen often. Our understanding of physics can't actually explain how bicycles stay upright when we ride them. The math suggests that they should just fall over. I haven't been able to bring myself to get on a bike in years because I'm convinced that the universe is suddenly going to remember that it shouldn't work and compensate by throwing me off. That every food has at least one bug part in it. After Pearl Harbor, some sailors who were on ships underwater found airtight areas and tried to bang on the boat. These sounds were eventually heard, but it was far too late. When they were found, 16 days were crossed off the calendar. The voice actor of Ducky from The Land Before Time, think, yep, 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 and dinosaurs, was a little girl that was later murdered by her own father, at most a few years after the movie. You can smell the scent of your lungs when you exhale through your nose, but since your body has become too accustomed to the smell, you don't notice it anymore. Most of the time when you're told that someone died quickly in a car crash or from other really painful ways, they're lying to you. The person usually survives the initial crash, but dies several minutes later in terrible pain. It's a lie you're told so it's a little bit easier on you. That it is as easy to bite your finger off, as it would be to take a bite of a carrot. Remember that guy who ate the homeless man's face because he was high on bath salts? He wasn't high on anything. Remember the guy who cut off another guy's head on the Greyhound because he was supposedly on drugs? Same thing. Then there was the 19-year-old who randomly murdered a couple in their garage. People said he was high on bath salts or maybe flakka. He wasn't high on anything. A lot of brutal random get chalked up to hard drugs, but by the time the toxicology report comes up totally clean, the media has moved on. No one knows why, but the truth seems to be that sometimes normal people can just completely snap and have a murderous, psychotic episode. 1 minute you're fine, the next you're cutting off someone's head and eating their face. Thank you so much for watching.